Week 18? Sounds weird. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to another episode of Podcast, the podcast where you don't have to be Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. 2 weeks of stress-free football. Thank you, football gods. Thank you. Grossi. And today we are going to be predicting each game in the final week of the regular season. Before we get to that, I want to do some shout-outs here. First, Peter Stewart, continuing to lead the Pick'em League with 182 and 73 on the year. Meanwhile, I'm 158 and 97. I went 12 and 4 last week, which is not too bad, but I'm also 1,270th in the league. But that's fine. That's fine. And other shout-outs go to the fantasy football winners from each of the Packcast Patreon leagues. In Packcast 1, you had Brett Goody getting the gold. Packcast 2, airing it out, crushing it. Packcast 3, you have the Rogers rate. Packcast 4, you had Denagradis. And then Packcast 5, you had Kyle. A big shout out and congratulations to all the winners. You beat me all and you're never forgiven. So let's jump into this thing. 2 games on Saturday, all the rest of the games on Sunday. Let's do it. First, we have an AFC West bout between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. The Chiefs suffering a loss to Kitty Goes Meow, the Cincinnati Bengals, in a high-flying affair in which the officials apparently were paid more by the Bengals, but Kitty Goes Meow. Meanwhile, the Broncos, they did Broncos things. What does that mean? They lost. You know, they're dealing with Drew Lock, and then Drew Lock got injured, but they're dealing with a whole lot of things. Teddy Bridgewater, he is going to be out for the rest of the season, not that he's going to miss much, and the Broncos are just a hot mess right now. The last game being played in Mile High. Could the Broncos come away with the win? Most likely not. Yes, it's a divisional game. However, the Chiefs are still trying to play for that number 1 seed. The Titans are the number 1 seed right now. Chiefs are sitting at number 2, so you'll get the full Patrick Mahomes effect. So I think the Chiefs are going to wind up taking this. Following that, you have an NFC matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Cowboys losing to the Arizona Cardinals. Hey, unfortunately, they did lose Michael Gallup to a torn ACL. On top of that, their run game had absolutely no production whatsoever against the Cardinals defense. They aren't going to be able to get the first seed as the Packers locked it up. However, they are still in contention for that number 2 seed. They just need to win and have a couple of teams lose. Meanwhile, the Eagles, they secured their spot in the playoffs as a number 7 seed, thanks to the Green Bay Packers. You're welcome. And so here, this is going to be an interesting game. The Eagles have been playing pretty well. They really have nothing to play for. However, the Cowboys, as I said before, are still going for seeding, so I am going to pick the Dallas Cowboys to win this one. Thankfully, Jalen Hurts won't have to worry about anything collapsing on top of him because the Eagles actually know how to take care of their stadium. So because of that, I am going to go with the Cowboys, and Jalen Hurts, you stay safe out there. Then you have a battle of the Bees. You got the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Bengals, as we talked about, oh, that kitty went meow. Jamar Chase, 266 yards. Joe Burrow has thrown nearly 1,000 yards in 2 games and 0 interceptions. They're hot. So hot, they're not playing Joe Burrow on Sunday, which is interesting because they still could get the number 1 seed, but they're saying no. Meanwhile, the Browns, they're really, really bad. Baker Mayfield, he's going to be getting surgery, so his season is done, and Case Keenum is going to start here. So we're going to have a battle of 2 backups. I don't know. Are the Browns going to be able to get it done? Probably, because without Joe Burrow, but then with Case Keenum there, I'll give the edge to the Bengals, but it's a meaningless game at this point, and the AFC North saga has come to an end. Following that, you got the Green Bay mother-loving Packers taking on the Detroit Lions. The Packers securing that first seed and the bye last week. Meanwhile, the Detroit Lions almost had a comeback against the Seahawks, but they also let them put 51 on them. The Packers, they said, LaFleur came out today and said that they're intending to win that football game. Some of the starters are probably going to be played just so, we can knock off any potential rust that's going to be there. You don't want these guys sitting for all of those weeks before they're going to play their first playoff game. I'm going to pick the Packers to win this one because if Aaron Rodgers even plays for a quarter, well, it is the first quarter, so he probably won't put up 2 points because they don't score in the first quarter. But Dave Bakhtiari could be back, so what the heck? Packers win. Jordan Love balls out. Then you have the Chicago Bears taking on the Minnesota Vikings. The Bears absolutely demolishing the Giants. They had -10 total passing yards, so they're the Giants. Meanwhile, the Minnesota Vikings. They didn't have Kirk Cousins, but we destroyed them on Sunday Night Football, and it was great to see. Now, this is the final game of probably both head coaches in their respective teams, for Matt Nagy and the Bears, and for Mike Zimmer with the Vikings. I think that the Minnesota Vikings will go out victorious, sending Mike Zimmer off into the great beyond in a Vikings funeral, meaning they're probably going to light him on fire after the game. So the Vikings are going to win. Then you have the Washington football team taking on the Giants. Washington football team. Yep, you can put lots of coats of paint on it, new uniforms, new helmets, new everything. But yeah, their stadium is still a disaster. I like their players too, but yeah, their front office, besides, their coach, is pretty abysmal. The Giants, as I said before, -10. So who's going to suck less? Who knows? Washington, you can win it. Following that, you have the Colts and the Jaguars, an AFC South matchup with a ton of playoff implications. And you look at this matchup and you're like, oh yeah, the Colts are going to win easily. However, the Colts haven't won in Jacksonville for years. And on top of that, the Jags want to play upset. The problem is the Jaguars are fracking awful. Yes, they were awful last year, but you have to remember that one win they got last year against the Indianapolis Colts. I think the Colts, with the playoffs on the line, they need to win. I think they're going to get it done. Jonathan Taylor's probably going to run all over the Jacksonville Jaguars and punch their ticket to the playoffs, and from there, let's see how far they can fly. Following that, you got Big Ben's final game. You got the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Two teams with disappointing seasons. However, the Steelers theoretically can still make the playoffs. They just need the Colts to lose against the Jaguars there. So there's definitely nothing that's a gimme. The Steelers still have a lot to play for, though, and I think that the Ravens, if they get Lamar Jackson back, it's not really going to matter. I'm actually going to pick the Steelers to win this game just because, like I said before, they have a lot to play for here. I know it's being played in Baltimore, but Big Ben goes out on a high note. They win, but they still don't get into the playoffs. Then you have a battle of the T's. You have the Tennessee Titans taking on the Houston Texans. The Titans getting back into that #1 seed by obliterating the Dolphins last week. Looking good. Also, Derrick Henry might be coming back as well. Meanwhile, the Texans, yeah, they're the Texans. They put up a decent fight against the 49ers, and they're like, okay, I'm done now. This could be a trap game. The Texans beat the Titans earlier this season, and you never know. The Titans, if they win, they're the #1 seed, and they get a bye week, which they definitely need, because Derrick Henry might be back in time for the playoffs. I'm going to go with the Titans here. I don't think they'll fall into the trap game like they did the time before, but you never know. Following that, you got the Saints taking on the Falcons. Oh, boy. Yeah, the Saints can still make the playoffs, too. They need to win. They need the 49ers to lose, which is very possible. The Saints' defense is phenomenal, able to beat the Carolina Panthers. It's just their offense is hot garbage. Meanwhile, the Falcons, yeah, they're the Falcons. Matt Ryan trying to get a touchdown, thinking he got a touchdown, then taunting and it not being a touchdown, and then them leaving with no points. It's the Falcons things. I'm going to go with the Saints here just because their defense is probably going to stop Matt Ryan from really doing a whole lot, but their offense is going to make me cry once again. Then you got the New Jersey Jets taking on the Buffalo Bills. The Jets almost beat the Buccaneers, and they played so well they made Antonio Brown quit. So kudos to you guys. It definitely wasn't a loss of a season. Meanwhile, the Bills, really close call with the Falcons, but they were able to get it done. On top of that, Josh Allen throwing 3 interceptions, ugly, but Devin Singletary emerging and scoring a bunch of TDs, and Josh Allen on the ground. I'm going to pick the Bills to win this to finish off their season. I honestly have no idea what the hell they're going to do in the postseason, but the point is that they're going to make it there. Then you got the New England Patriots taking on the Miami Dolphins. The Patriots putting up 50 points against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Meanwhile, the Dolphins, They had won 7 straight after losing 7 straight, and then they got destroyed by the Titans, so that's a bit disappointing. You know the Dolphins want to take this one after beating the Patriots back in week 1. They could sweep them here. I don't think that's going to happen, though. The Patriots still could be the number 1 seed, even though they need a lot of things to happen. I think the Patriots are going to get their revenge, not be swept by the Dolphins, and head into the playoffs beating 2 really not great teams. Following that, you got the Carolina Panthers taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Well, the 5 leading receivers for the Buccaneers, 3 out of the 5 are currently not available. Godwin is injured. AB is who the hell knows. And on top of that, Fournette is currently on IR. So that's not really good. But the Panthers, they can't stop a cold. And, you know, theoretically, a common cold is pretty difficult to stop. I mean, you could do vitamin C and zinc and vitamin D. But the point is the Panthers suck. Like, real bad. Are they worse than the Jets? Yeah, I still think they're worse than the Jets, so the Buccaneers are going to win. Then you have a real intriguing game over in the NFC West. You have the 49ers taking on the Rams. The 49ers, they have the Rams number. They call it all the time, and they're like, haha, the letter of the day is W because they get the win. I don't know where I was going with that joke. But the 49ers have been taking care of business against the Rams for quite some time, including earlier this season in prime time. They were able to take care of the Texans, even though not in the prettiest of ways. Trey Lance was the one who was leading the way. Meanwhile, the LA Rams, another close victory, a little too close for comfort, against the Baltimore Ravens. Matthew Stafford, been inconsistent, has thrown 6 interceptions in the last 3 games, but he's kind of a mixed bag against the Ravens, going 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. You had OBJ and Von Miller saving the day here. I'm actually going to pick the Rams to get the W here, just because the Rams are currently holding the number 2 seed. They're going to want to stay there, and I think the Rams getting a little hot. They're on a win streak right now. Will continue that win streak into the playoffs. Following that, you got the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals, another team that could still get the 2 spot, and after a 3-game losing streak, finally reversed course, even though they almost lost it in the 4th quarter, allowing 15 points, defeating the Dallas Cowboys. Meanwhile, the Seahawks, you guys did it! I mean, you're out of the playoffs, but you put 51 up on the Lions, so that's something to be proud of. Well, this might be Russell Wilson's final game as a Seattle Seahawk. I think the Cardinals are going to send him off just right with a loss. And so because of that, the Cardinals are going to get the dub. And finally, for all the marbles, Sunday Night Football, you got the LA Chargers taking on the Raiders. This is by far the hardest game to call because both of these teams wildly inconsistent. They can have great performances and then they can completely crap the bed. The Chargers, yeah, they really are a tale of 2 cities. Sometimes their defense is decent and their offense is firing on all cylinders, and then other times I don't want to look at it. The Raiders able to pull off a big win against the Colts with a last-second field goal. Looking at you, Carlson, with 4 game-winning field goals this year. It's being played in Vegas, so that atmosphere is going to be electric and full of COVID. I'm going to pick the Chargers to stamp their ticket, though, and get their way into the playoffs. How far are they going to go? Probably not very far, but I just think with Eckler, Herbert, Keenan Allen, and if Bosa shows up, I think that they just have enough to get it done against the Raiders. The Raiders haven't really been playing inspiring football, but I think they'll put up a fight at least. But let me know what you think down in the comments below, folks. This is the final week of the regular season, and then we got playoffs, baby. The most wonderful time of the year. But let me know. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or TomGrossiComedy, all social media, see down below. Check out podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, and of course, YouTube. And a big shout and thank you to all the patrons over patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy and the YouTube members. But thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack, go.